Don't trip over the wire, go quietly. How do you like Yandex delivery? Well, Alexander, some of the stars? In
One of the days after the artillery shelling, the infantry was carrying out an assault mission to take a position to capture the enemy's position. As they say, day by day we kept moving forward. Before that, of course, always, the artillery would work, our mortars would fire, our guns would go off. And so, on one of the days after our artillery preparation, we saw an enemy vehicle moving at full speed toward those positions. In the end, it turned out that it was carrying out an evacuation. That is, it had come for a group of soldiers who had gathered at one of the positions. The vehicle arrived, and while it was moving, we also kept up artillery fire on it. Fire. The vehicle managed to load up some of its soldiers. Look, here comes the vehicle. They're running, all of them running out of the dugout. Here are the thermal signatures. They're working, covering with machine gun fire, firing at our positions from the vehicle's machine gun. Here they come running out. One of them crawled out and is crawling away. But here we see the AFU. The AFU soldiers are running, trying to evacuate, running past. Basically, the soldier who's wounded, there he is, crawling. No one reached out a hand to him, no one helped, no one picked him up, no one even tried to help. It's clearly visible in the footage. He's hoping that they'll still come for him, trying to make it to his own people. The vehicle basically drives up, he tries to climb into it, but since their own lives are more important to them now, they just abandon him. So he was left behind, and now he's going to ride here for a while. We thought they actually ran him over, and basically we also left him and continued working directly on the vehicle. But as we clearly saw in the footage, they simply abandoned their own fighter without even reaching out a hand or offering any help. There's no talk of any brotherhood in arms or camaraderie here at all. Our fighters were 150 meters away from this position. We saw how, during the evacuation of their own, they used a heavy machine gun to suppress our firing point. All of this was carried out at night. Our reconnaissance was observing this vehicle with the help of drones. In the end, the vehicle was hit by an FPV drone and caught fire. We were all focused directly on the vehicle, so at that moment, to be honest, we weren't thinking about the fighter they abandoned because our combat mission was specifically to target the vehicle. And already the next day, when we were preparing to take this position directly, our fighters made another push, covering those 150 meters. That fighter, who was already out of the frame, so to speak, of our further operations, managed to crawl into the dugout from which they had all run out and stayed there.
Well, we went to take up new positions. We already had a rough idea of where he was here. So we kept moving along the trench, and then we saw the entrance to the dugout. There were 4 of us walking, and at one point we stopped and 2 of us went ahead. I got a grenade ready to throw my own Checheva in there, and then my partner shouts to me, "There's movement in there." I yelled, "Get out of there!" There were some choice words too, you could say. So I pulled the pin and got ready. He threw out his rifle and shouted, "Don't kill me, please. I want to live." Taking a life is one thing, but sparing a life is something else entirely. What's the difference? We're just people, same as they are. Well, it's true, they chose their path and we chose ours.
The soldier was stunned, shell-shocked, and blinded. As he later explained himself, he was blinded by the AGS when they were pulling back from other positions to this one. Our artillery was firing at them, our AGS was firing at them. That's why, as you saw in the video, he didn't run out of the dugout, he crawled out. He was crawling out because he was blinded. And once again, I want to repeat that no one offered him a hand. No one helped him get out of the dugout, no one helped him reach the vehicle or get into the vehicle. Everyone was only thinking about themselves. They ran out, as they say, running so fast their heels were flashing. Well, you saw all of this for yourselves in the video.
Don't trip over the wire. Go quietly. He has a shrapnel wound and a concussion. He was in very bad shape. I was given 1 can of canned food for the whole day and a heel's worth of water. He has stomach depletion, malnutrition, malaise because there were 4 of them sitting there, as he said before, and Baba Yaga brought them food literally for a day or 2. They only got supplies through drones. And then our northern allies started shooting them down and not letting them through.
According to the prisoner himself, these are mobilized soldiers. Alexander, his name is Alexander. Actually, the situation with him is a bit comical. The prisoner turned out to be a native of Uzbekistan, ethnically Korean, but he lives and served accordingly on the side of the Ukrainian armed forces. So we ended up with quite a funny character. Our fighters provided first aid on the spot, evacuated the soldier, and brought him to our nearest stabilization point, where medics gave him They gave him the necessary first aid, put him on an IV, and changed him into dry clothes. Then, once we were absolutely certain and completely sure at the stabilization point that the wounded soldier would indeed survive and that nothing at all threatened his life or his health in any way, as they say, we still, nevertheless, had to cover a considerable and significant distance traveling from the positions to the command post where we were located in order to be able to properly and thoroughly question this prisoner. It was a journey that required caution and attention, ensuring the safety of everyone involved, and making sure that the prisoner remained secure and under control throughout the entire process. And in order to get him directly from the combat positions to the command post, to cover this distance, about 15, maybe 15 to 20 kilometers of rough and difficult terrain, since the captured soldier was in poor physical condition, our guys simply had to carry him themselves, making sure he was safe along the way.
He surrendered. He said, I can't walk. Well, we'll get you out of here. At first, I tried to walk him, but he really couldn't go. He kept falling, stumbling. I put him on my back and dragged him along. We're evacuating the prisoner. Since he's a 300th wounded, he can't walk on his own. We take turns carrying him. How do you like the Yandex delivery service? Alexander. The driver changed. Now we're walking. Plenty of space for your face, showing you the scenery you asked for.
We simply carried him out in our arms, with several soldiers taking turns. Of course, we had to stop and take breaks along the way, but we had to literally carry the prisoner out of the battlefield in our own arms, making sure to be careful and steady as we went. When we finally brought him to the command post, where a certain conversation was held with him, again, we gave him something to drink, fed him, and asked questions, both about the combat situation and, of course, about the political context. Why were they there? What was their purpose at the front? Is this your military ID?
Yes.
So this is yours too?
Yes. And
Where do you serve? Could you please?
the 56th in the region of the 23rd Battalion. With
Whom?
well, right now, basically, I was stationed in the area, in the Archean area. And
How long had he been at the positions? Since
May 8th, I think? Since
May 8th?
Yes.
How many people did you have there?
3 people.
At the...
Could you please clarify the positions for me?
Yes, disgusting.
From our platoon, from
Your platoon. Tell me, what happened to your face?
when the evacuation was happening and people were urgently leaving the area, the AGS alarm suddenly went off and the shell which had been fired exploded right on time, exactly as expected. It threw me to the floor, onto my legs.
Look, when...
I can't see well right now, you understand? My head was banged up. Well, when I was being loaded into the truck, a big bruise. When the truck left, there were 5 loads on the straps holding me down.
Did anyone beat you here?
No, well,
It's just that your face really looks like maybe someone beat you, or...
no, it was the explosion of the shell.
That's what caused it. How do people treat you here?
Like a real human being, truly.
Well, were there a lot of stories that you shouldn't surrender to us?
We were told that, yes, if you know what it is, what's there, then you can be against us. But I'm not against it.
You don't mind being filmed on video, if that's okay with you?
Well, okay, I can. No, I don't mind.
Of course, it's clear that a prisoner probably couldn't fully open up, but seeing how we greeted him, so to speak, or what the atmosphere was like here when he was captured, he himself said that he didn't expect it. It wasn't their command that scared them. The command didn't say that there were volunteers stationed in this area. In short, they said that prisoners aren't taken here. In case of any attempts to surrender, there would inevitably be a shooting on the spot from our side. But when he surrendered, he saw for himself that in the very first minutes he was given support and assistance. He was carefully and urgently evacuated to a designated stabilization point where he was immediately given essential first aid treatment, and then he was gently and carefully carried out from the dangerous line of contact in our arms. In other words, his fellow soldiers unfortunately abandoned him and left him behind, while our brave and selfless fighters, risking their own lives and health without hesitation, saved his life and ensured his survival. They saved his health. He was given every possible attention and support, not so that he would feel our kindness, but simply because that's how we always act. We are not fighting against the Ukrainian people, we are not fighting against Ukraine. We are fighting against the junta that seized power in Ukraine back in 2014 through a coup d'etat. And since that moment, on this land, essentially, there is a puppet government that is controlled by a collective reserve. Here we spoke with him and, of course, handed him over to the special services so that they could question him and work with him in more detail. Well, and then, most likely, you'll come across his name on a prisoner exchange list, so from here on, as they say, certain specialists will take over working with him. Our task is to continue carrying out combat missions and to keep advancing, taking back our Russian land, meter by meter. First of all, the question of shooting him on the spot or anything like that never even came up. That is never the way things are done. First of all, prisoners are always a valuable source of information, valuable and useful information. First of all. Secondly, prisoners are always proof of our combat work, that as we advance, we are taking over enemy positions, and that's why the soldiers have certain feelings, emotions, even pride in their work. That's why we never have any thoughts or intentions of shooting anyone. If the enemy decides to surrender, if the enemy raises their hands, of course no one is going to kill or finish them off. We only fight those who fight against us. Whoever comes to us with a sword will die by the sword. Everyone who sees this video, everyone who sees Alexander now, will see how he was taken prisoner, how he was...
Вы сохраните свою жизнь. Мой позывной депутат. Всем, кому неравнодушна судьба нашей Родины, приходите служить.